So welcome to a special edition of Witch Hat Chats. Come on in and sit for a spell. Sponsored by Evermoving We Rise and Moonlight Potions and Charms. I am your amazing goddess host, Miss Nikki Kirby, and I am proud to introduce our wonderful co-host, Saul Ravencraft. How you doing, Saul?
I am fantastic, Nikki. How are you doing today?
I am great. So what's been up in Texas here lately?
Well, we're in October, the most wonderful time of the year. And it's the time when a lot of people start to catch up with me and everything. So there are a few things going on. One of the things that has broken loose and has just been driving me crazy over the last week is I went from 0 to now on doing several spirit sessions. I'm still looking to form permanent relationships with people where I can do things on a very regular basis with this kind of thing. But now it's sort of convincing people to let me do some of that in their setting. And I was looking and then suddenly found a way to do it. But then a lot of stuff was not prepared to share that with everybody. So I have been really scrambling. It's like, you're going to do a festival tomorrow.
Right.
So that's been, I'll admit, that's been a little stressful trying to get all that going. And of course, now is the time when people who book me to do things are more interested in this kind of a theme. So I've had several things popping up with that. A lot of them are private events. I did a house party last weekend, which was just so thrilling. It was people that I'd done things before, but we went in kind of a different direction with what we did and spent time with the artifacts and played some intuition games and did readings and all of that. And that was pretty moving in many different ways. So it is the time of madness. The best way to see what's going on and to participate is to keep track of my Facebook page. I know not everybody is a Facebook person, but that's been the easiest way for me to keep up to date. I'm trying to find ways to get my website more useful for that, but it's hard. and I'm a lone. I am a sole practitioner for some of this kind of stuff. So. But if you are interested in doing private things, private readings, private parties, virtual stuff, I do still have blank spots, and it's not too late for a few of those little niches in the schedule there. So reach out. I'd love to do something for you. And it's not just in October, right? It's not like I go hibernate. I don't crawl back into my cave at the end of October. This is stuff that I share all year round. So if you're the kind of person that carries Halloween in your heart all year round, when things slow down a little bit, we can do special stuff for you, but we do got to get it on the calendar. So reach out, get to know me better.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't sleep in a cave. He sleeps in a tomb.
I tell you what, when I talk to some young people, that's pretty much what they tell me.
Oh, Lordy, I swear. Oh, Lordy. Oh,
Well, you've always got a ton of stuff going on. What is coming up for you, Miss Nikki?
of course, we got so many things that's going on. We have for Evermoving We Rise on the 14th. We've got the Samhain ritual that we're going to be doing this year. And I'm really looking forward to it because we are ending a lot of things that we no longer need. And we're going to be doing some other witchy things. So I'm looking forward to that one on the 14th. And then on the 1st, we're doing our annual ancestor blessing ritual. And basically, it's when we all come and we discuss about our ancestors. We go around the room and some people talk about their Pacific ancestors, some memories and stuff. And, it's been really helpful since the pandemic started, and people talking about how that they experienced with their ancestors. Some of them discussed, how what their experiences were, and we do a lot of healing in this ritual and everything, and it always comes out on a positive turn. So I'm looking forward to both of those. And then, of course, Moonlight Potions and Charms. As usual, we're always celebrating our 5-star reviews for our products, amazing service, and really fast shipping. I mean, a lot of times the shipping is on that day. So like I said, it's really, really fast shipping. So I want to talk about some of our new items that we've got. We've talked about the Bare Bone Trio, Hear No Evil, See No Evil, and Speak No Evil. They are a cute little threesome that actually reminds us that we really need to take life not so seriously, because it's not going to come around again. And basically, if you take life too seriously, you're going to end up just like them, a lot quicker. Oh, and we got so many other new products. We got a new altar on the go for the Baron MD and Mama Brigitte. Yes, we have an altar for them. It's a really nice altar, and it's a limited edition because there's very few of them. So check that out on our website. And I want to talk about our readings and our coaching. The thing about it is our ancestor readings. Well, I mean, not only do they help you to connect to your ancestors, but they also help you to get specific information from them, especially if you are a person who either you don't know who your ancestors are, you don't know where to begin when it comes to talking to your ancestors. A lot of people actually come to me for that. They want to know, how can I start this and how can I do this? And this is what these readings actually really, truly help with. So we can do the readings for the ancestors, and then we have the tarot readings. And when it comes to the tarot readings, we go beyond the cards. So it's not, because anybody can tell you what the cards are and what their meanings are. We kind of go beyond that as we discuss specifically what comes to us through the use of our abilities and talents. And it's just a major great way of being able to connect to people. And we really love helping people. And a lot of times these readings, they do. And we help people to feel empowered. So make sure you come to Moonlight Potions and Charms and get one of our readings. You'll definitely feel a lot better afterwards, and you'll feel very much empowered. And on October 22nd is going to be the Paws 4th annual Pet Feast, and that's going to be at Morse Park in Lake Lure, North Carolina from 10 to 2 p.m. And this is a fundraiser for them. They're the ones that help me with my little Daisy Dottie Boo, little Daisy Dottie dog. And this is a chance for you to come out with your family and your pets to have fun, eat food, dance to the music. And there's going to be vendors from Western North Carolina tailored to your pets. There's going to be food, dancing, and local animal rescues will bring animals out to adopt. So this is going to happen, rain or shine. All of that information is in our summary. So make sure to come out and just have some fun and maybe be able to bring home a fuzzy little baby with you. So, Saul, you know that we have expanded to go on the go. Don't you know that? Even when you're on the go, you can take Witch Hat Chats with you now. Ain't that right, Saul?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Just go to our link tree and you'll be able to find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and so many other places coming to you soon. Woo! We are just moving and moving and moving, aren't we, Saul?
Oh, yes, we are.
All right. You want to know what our divination reading is for today?
Always.
Awesome. So, for those of you who always know, I drink what is called Positive Energy Tea by Yogi, and they always have one of those, and we call it, we don't know the official word, but the official word now for Witch Hat Chats is the tea thingy. You know, that little thingy that's on the tea bag. So that's the tea thingy. That's the official word of it now. There's always some sort of wisdom. So for our divination today, wisdom becomes knowledge when it is personally experienced. Ooh, what do you think about that, Saul?
Well, it's interesting. I've been reading a book called Atlas Hugged. It's a response to Ayn Rand's book Atlas Shrugged, and it's done as a novel the same way she did hers. And one of the ideas that they were talking about just very recently in the story is how difficult it is to learn random facts that don't connect with you in any way. And that when you can relate them to each other and relate them to yourself, then you're able to learn a lot more. And I think that's very relevant to this. It's difficult for us to take information and just deal with it randomly. Some people do that well. Most of us don't. And I think that relates directly to what we're talking about here, that in order for you to make use of this information, it's got to connect with you. It's got to connect with your world in some way. Otherwise, it's just trivia. Mm-hmm. And when you use your knowledge for your betterment, that's wisdom.
Right. You know, the one thing that Granddaughter Crow and I were talking about is that when you're in school, you're taught theory, and that's great. However, when you take that theory to the field and you start to apply it, sometimes it doesn't always go the way the theory says it's supposed to go.
Sure.
And so this is what it kind of reminds me of with this divination. You know, wisdom is something that has to be personally experienced. You can't obtain wisdom just through books all the time. You have to go out. You have to experience life. You have to get involved in these things. And, you know, staying cooped up all the time is not a way of being able to get wisdom. It's not a way of being able to live either. get out, explore, find out what's beyond your borders, expand, grow. And this is where your wisdom will eventually come, because it'll come from the personal experience that you went through. It's just like Saul and I are a lot more wise now when it comes to podcasting than we were when we first started.
I think that's a fair statement.
Oh, yeah. Thinking about the previous episodes that I've had, especially the ones without Saul, I've had to learn so much when it comes to doing all of this, because it's not simply about getting on a camera and just running your mouth for an hour and a half. There's something else that's got to be there, something that people's actually got to listen to. And that takes a lot of time. And you have to personally experience it so you can be able to get the wisdom from it.
I think that's a fair statement.
All right. And now we are going to take a little break and hear from our amazing sponsors with so many new and wonderful magical things. We'll be right back. Have you wondered what spirituality is? Spirituality is limitless, as it does not contain any boundaries on beliefs or practices. Spirituality's most important component is personal experience and allows one to explore it freely. Evermoving We Rise is a spiritual moving tradition, as our name is our lifestyle, because we are persistently rising and moving forward. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We'll teach you to become friends with your shadow, emerge your authentic self, and give you time and space to develop your own spirituality. And when situations bump back, you'll have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Visit us on our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box. Behind the door, you should find the return of the Barebone Trio. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Skeletons. This Barebone Trio reminds us not to take life too seriously and shows us the sense of humor we all have. Each one crafted with specific details and are great for the Day of the Dead, your ancestor altar, Halloween, Samhain, Hecate, and the possibilities are limitless. And there is so much more in our wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you.
At Witch Hat Chats, we promote magical knowledge, arts, and music from all cultures. We invite you to join us as our guest to share your practice, especially if your traditions are lesser known. Email us at witchhatchats@gmail.com. Tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page.
And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And you know what? I think it's time to introduce our guest host. So, this guest host performs some of the magic that brings our show from remote connections into the video that you see, chimes in on our conversations, and shares his infinite wisdom with us. But what else does he do? Hmm. He says he carries Halloween in his heart all year around. But really, does he? And we're coming into his spooky season. He is a performance artist, a horror host, a collector, and he collects a lot of different scary shit. And he's a coach and a wizard. So be prepared to go where no one has ever dared to go before. You know, many people have tried, but all have failed. But I said, I owe it to our Witch Hat Chat viewers to take this special mission. Hell yeah, let's do it. So let's dive a little deeper into the spooky world and mind of our co-host, my friend, Saul Ravencraft.
Wow. How fun. Hello, Nikki.
Oh, hello, Saul.
It is interesting to be on this side of things.
All right. So most of us really only kind of know a little bit about your history. We know that you were a skeptic,
Right.
and you decided to say, hey, let's see if this actually is legit or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you found out, ooh, yes, there's something here. There's
It
something.
does turn your world upside down when you do that.
And then you went down the rabbit hole and you never came back.
This is true. This is true. Just recently, I was dealing with consequences of that sort of thing, where someone who knew me before expressed their disconnection with what my world is right now. And, I can't fix that for them. It is what it is. What is known cannot be unknown. What is seen and experienced, you can't stuff that back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. And it's been a weird world. It's been a weird path. I'm nowhere near done with it yet. But yeah, it has changed a lot, but in good ways, I think. In good ways. It's okay to be challenged.
So you do so many different things. I know. So let's discuss. I know you do seances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you go into these haunted places. And you don't necessarily bust ghosts.
No. So let's talk around that a little bit. There are a few different things that people are looking for. There are seances where people are looking to open up and make connections for specific purposes. Now, I have not at this point found myself to be the sort of medium that can dial up a spirit's number and bring them in. It doesn't mean that they don't come into a session when someone is looking for that, but I don't do it by myself. I do it with the cooperation and collaboration of people. And we have done sessions that were specifically designed to help connect and accomplish a goal. One that I remember very much in particular was a session where I was working with 3 younger people who were orphaned, and their aunt had asked me to come and do a session with them to try and get some connection and closure for them. And it was very successful. That's an intimidating kind of a situation because honestly, there's a lot that happens in these things that is outside of your control. And you you want it to be a good experience for everybody. So that is something that I do. That's something that happens in certain circumstances. Those are never open to the public. And they happen usually in people's homes and that sort of thing. There's also what I call my spirit sessions. And I recognize that there are a lot of people that are just curious about all this stuff. They've heard about connecting with the dead. They don't know if they're into it or not. And so you get this mixture of the true believers, the people that are coming in to really open up to this, and the people that are just kind of coming to see what all this is about. Right? And so now we've moved a little bit more into a ritual, which is what I consider a seance to be. And we've moved a little bit more into the presentation side of things, where not everybody is going to be at the same level. And the goal is to get them there and get them where they can participate as effectively as they will. And those are the kinds of things that you sell tickets to and you have in public venues and that kind of thing. I'm doing several of those kinds of things in October. Some of them are going to be a little more like workshops because we have some limited time and resource for those, where we're going to talk about different techniques and play with them a little bit. And then some of them are going to be at a private location in Georgetown that I have access to, that I can't publicly disclose until you buy your ticket, because I'm not allowed to advertise this place. And those are going to be much more of the full seance type sessions. But with the understanding that everybody's got to have an orientation, everybody's got to be into that. And there's a slightly different spirit in those, if I can use that word. So I do see a differentiation. And I personally have no problem with doing things that have a little bit more theatricality to them for people that are curious and wanting to understand. Because what I find is even when you do things in a more storytelling nature, that connections still happen, right? Stuff still happens in those settings. Mm-hmm. But the atmosphere and the attitude is such that someone who is not sure how they feel about this stuff can just enjoy the ride, think of it as a show, and not have to worry about it. Whereas when we get into the more ritual side of things, those people feel, I guess you would say, a little duty bound to express their concerns and their skepticism, and sometimes to disrupt things. And that's not fun for everybody, especially if you paid to have an unusual experience and you got some asshole over here who's just trying to spoil the fun because they got something to prove. So yeah, this to me is one of the most wonderful things, because it digs into the old ideas of spiritualism back from its beginnings and its history, and we deal with all those techniques, which I think if you're genuinely interested in exploring haunted locations and making spirit connections, it's all got to come from here. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't, there's no gadget that will make that connection for you. You're always reaching out and making that connection personally. That's just the way it works. We're all mediums to some degree, but we don't always have faith in ourselves, and we don't always know what tools and techniques that we can use for that. And that's really what I bring to the table in this, is not so much that I have amazing Marvel comic book powers of calling up the dead. But I have studied a lot. I have practiced this sort of thing, and that puts me a little ahead. But my message for anyone who participates is this is something that you can connect with. You don't need me in order to talk to your grandmother's spirit, but I can facilitate. And hopefully people who want to make that deeper connection either find their own way to do that on their own, or they hook up with me to go into some of the deeper stuff. Now, so gadgets, why use gadgets at all if this is the case? Well, the problem is that, and I think you've probably experienced this in your own journey, is it's not always obvious what these connections are like when they occur. Sometimes it can be really subtle, and there's a lot of doubt that's involved with that. And you kind of have to get over yourself in order to be successful with this kind of thing. But when you have some kind of a device, like this is a very popular one, this is what they call an EMF meter, an electromagnetic field detector. Now, I am sitting in the middle of a bunch of electronics. So it would not surprise me for this thing to be active in here as different things connect. I don't have any Wi-Fi running in here right now, and that would make a difference. But one of the things that is important with these devices is it detects the presence of electromagnetic fields. In science class, you probably learned that if you wrap wire around a nail and put a battery to it, it turns into a magnet. This electromagnetic field is a natural side effect of flowing electricity. And your Wi-Fi will generate it, your phone's radio will generate it, other devices and things that are using electricity will generate that stuff, and it'll create a false positive on this. So first thing I do when I'm working with a device like this is I put my phone on airplane mode and turn off all those broadcast signals that will fake this thing out. I try to pay attention. For example, when we were at Curia Arcanum and we were exploring with this thing, I had the owner, Frank, point out to me where all of his security cameras were. And sure enough, every time we pointed toward one of these security cameras, this thing just lit up because it was broadcasting that Wi-Fi signal, right? And so you'd be in a spot and it'd go hot and you go, whoa, and then you go, oh, but there's a camera there, and we follow that line up, and sure enough, that's what was going on there. But then we started turning them off. We started turning off light sources and other electronic things that might have been faking it out. And we found this big zone where this steadily was at that middle peak. Hmm. And now, does that mean there's a ghost there? We don't really have a full correlation that ghosts give off electromagnetic fields. It's just a theory. And a lot of people have found empirically, by experience, that when ghostly activity happens, that these things tend to register a stronger force there. So, it's important to know what your gadget does so that you can have a little skepticism, right? And go, okay, it went off. Is there a reason why it might have gone off? And you go through the possibilities and you test them. And if you run out of possibilities, then you've got a mystery. And the mystery is kind of the best we can do at this point. Now, those of us that have spent time learning how to tune in and how to open up, we will often get something in addition to this kind of feedback that lets us know, okay, there's something going on here. And this helps reinforce. But for people that aren't used to tuning in, that are still trying to learn how to deal with that feedback, these kinds of gadgets give a very obvious indication that, hey, you should be paying attention right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so I love playing with some of the gadgets. I don't feel that they are necessary to have a useful spirit connection, but they can be a way to help people feel a little bit more in tune with what's going on if they don't know how to take their shields down.
So when you're having a seance, how do you connect to spirit?
So I really go back to the spiritualist techniques that you find in the 19th century, back when spiritualism became a thing. People have talked to the dead for forever. There have been people. I mean, there's a biblical account of the Witch of Endor who helped raise a spirit to ask questions. So this has been a part of human culture for a long time. But what we think of as spiritualism in our modern perspective really started about the middle of the 1800s, about 1847 or so. The main story that people connect with are the Fox sisters, which were some young people that discovered that they could get communication with spirits rapping and that sort of thing. It's a controversial thing. Some people see them as a very clear indication of this emerging truth. Some of them say that's all bullshit. and everybody's got their proof on that. But this is where we got the idea that the way we're going to connect with spirits is we're going to sit together in the dark, and we're going to hold hands, and we're going to have bells, and that the spirits are going to knock on things and all of that kind of thing. That evolved from this recognition. And it's an interesting time to me, because before that, the idea of spirit connection was the purview of the priest. It was the purview of some special spiritual person that was allowed to do something, or it was the purview of the witch and the demon and all those other people that were just there to drag us to hell. Right? But in spiritualism, while there was a recognition of mediumship and that some people seemed to have a better capability of connecting with spirits, that anyone was allowed to try. Anyone could use the techniques and the tools of spiritualism to uncover the quality of their own gifts. And to me, that's a big thing, because what it does is it takes the allowance of spiritualism, of spirit connection being with the anointed, and it makes it available to everyone. Just like in the 60s and 70s, with the rediscovery of witchcraft, how the idea of the solitary practitioner became more of a thing. It was beginning to happen early in the 20th century, but it just blew up in the 60s and 70s. And it was the same idea. Back in Gardnerian traditions and things like that, in order to be a witch, you had to go through this process. And if you didn't go through the process and they didn't say, all right, you're okay, then you weren't really supposed to do that stuff. Right? And now, of course, we have the idea of self-initiation and self-discovery with all of that sort of thing. And I think it's a better world. I don't think there should be gatekeepers on our connections with the universe. Right? If you got it, go for it. And if you want it, you can discover it. You know, I love that. And that's what spiritualism did for spirit connection, the same way that this Renaissance happened. And so I start with all of that, and I look at the ideas of those tools and techniques, and that really what it involves is first understanding the ways that spirits might connect with you. That's some of the study and the practice. And then learning to open yourself up to that connection, along with specific safeguards. So if someone has a particular way they need it to be, I can accommodate that. I'm actually very flexible in how I do ritual in general. It's one of the advantages of being a chaos magician, right? I don't have a fixed way that everything has to be. I can explore that. But in general, what we would do is we would get together, we would create conditions of isolation. Can you talk to spirits in the middle of a crowded bar? Absolutely. Is it hard? Hell yes. It's hard to talk to each other in a crowded bar because of all the noise and distraction, that kind of thing. So I find that in general, having a place that's isolated and quiet, where you can control the lighting and you're not going to have people just coming through at any point, that's a good starting place. People don't have to sit around and hold hands. If they want to, it can be nice. But I've done it with people scattered around a room with me at a focal point. No rules there. But I do also always cast a circle. I may do it as a part of the ritual, or I may do it as part of my preparation before anyone comes in, depending on whether I think that'll freak someone out to deal with that. I will always lead the group through grounding and shielding exercises so that they are able to use their own basic capabilities to protect them from whatever we might connect with, and to remind them that they can do that, that they are involved with all of that. It's not just me being the big guy here. And then what we do is we will do a variety of things. Sometimes I'll do some tuning exercises for everybody. Sometimes we will apply some of the different gadgets and things like that that are available.
All right, and we need to take a pause here and listen to our wonderful sponsors, and we will be right back.
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all, and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to TexasMojoMan.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune. At Witch Hat Chats, we promote magical knowledge, arts, and music from all cultures. We invite you to join us as our guest to share your practice, especially if your traditions are lesser known. Email us at witchhatchats@gmail.com. Tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page.
And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And I am going deeper into the mind of Texas Mojo Man, Saul Ravencraft. Now, Texas Mojo Man, Saul Ravencraft, how did you come about?
So there are sort of two modes to what I do. One is that very public-facing aspect of everything, the performance art side of things that I try to keep safe for different kinds of audiences. And that's what we call the executive occultist. There's a little bit of a joke in there for people that get it. And I still wonder if I should let go of the word occultist in that environment because it does scare some people away. But I always decide now that's an important aspect.
You're a scary person anyway, Saul.
Now, the Texas Mojo Man was the way that I described my journey into the realities of this stuff. Originally, when I got involved, it was all performance-minded. I did not expect to be doing actual magic. I did not expect to be doing actual divination or spirit connection or anything like that. It was all intended to be sort of a fantasy thing. Until I got into it and went, holy shit, some of this stuff is real. Yeah. And that side got burned away in a way that was startling. And once I began to take hold of it and to discover this stuff, I had to take ownership of it. And I couldn't just play in that space anymore. As a friend of mine put it, you are doing things and you probably should start doing them on purpose or someone is going to get hurt. And she pointed out that I needed to take responsibility for how I was beginning to work with this energy and will and manifestation and that sort of thing. And so that was my personal journey into that. But my goal was not to become some kind of a guru or anything like that. I still don't feel that way for myself. There's a lot of people that have done a lot more study and had mentors and that kind of thing. I'm stumbling around in the wilderness here. And yet I would have people that were interested in why my world seemed to be the way that it was. What was it that I was catching on to that they were missing? And so the Texas Mojo Man was a way with certain people that we tried to do that. I'm not a witch exactly. I'm kind of a wizard, but I'm a Texas Mojo Man. There you go. Right? Just a way to not necessarily connect me with a certain practice and to leave me free to be eclectic and unique, right? I guess there's always a certain amount of showman in me no matter what I do. And so that became that sort of division between the paths. Now, I do readings for corporate parties. I'm going to be in San Antonio here doing readings for an event. I'm going to be at Austin City Limits for a party doing readings. And for those, I don't cull my tarot cards. I don't pull out the tower and stuff like that. I know some people do that in a party, but I don't do that. Because if that's what you pull, For some reason, you need to see that. But I also recognize that in the 5 minutes we have together at this party, that we're not going to go very deep on that, and that we can't go very deep on that. And so I have to have a mode that allows me to raise that vibration a little bit and keep it at the high level so that you can spend the 5 minutes with me, see the tower and go, oh yeah, something is going on. And you can think about that later, not at the shrimp table when you walk away, right? That it doesn't spoil the rest of your evening. But on the other hand, there are situations where we're doing a reading and we do need to spend some time talking about that tower, and we do need to dig more into that. And the restrictions that I put on that connection and the pacing is the difference between the more performance-oriented side that people see and when we sit down to really work on your stuff. But having said that, even when I'm doing a corporate party, I still do real readings. I can't avoid that. I still do that, but I limit what we're going to talk about. And of course, I have a horrendous time restriction where we got to just keep it going.
Right. So are you more than just a reader when it comes to the Texas Mojo Man?
I am. I mean, I'm a practitioner and I'm a seeker. And so I do all of this stuff as part of my world, part of my day. Now, I do have a sort of a consultation that I reach out with and make available to people, because some people are looking for it and they're looking for it from me. And I want to show them that, yes, you can connect with me. But I don't necessarily feel like I've become a national authority or anything like that. And I don't know that I want to be, because when you become that, then, you got to deal with thousands of people working with them, and you've got to be able to project that out. And it makes it more difficult to deal with the individuals. I have people that I follow on certain topics that have become that, and they know who I am, but we can't really spend hardly any personal time together. 20 minutes over the course of several years is special time, right? And what I have found, especially with my own philosophy on all of this, is that we are working on people finding their own individual capabilities and their own individual pathways for this stuff. And it's not, it's a little bit about what I do, but it's not all about what I do. It's about how my experience was. It's like what we were talking about in the tea thing divination, right? Mm-hmm. My experience turns some of my knowledge into wisdom, right? But I still gotta keep myself in perspective, right? I am still just a random asshole who happens to have certain interests and certain experiences, and I try to do things through love. And I try to be as open as I can for everybody, which is a constantly evolving process. But none of this is about what I can do. It's all about what you want to do and how you want to open to it, and what I can maybe do to help. But you've always got homework. Right. And it's funny, and I'm sure that you've experienced this as well, that there are people that do have interest in these things, but they really are not willing to do any work with it. And they just think that you're gonna do some kind of magic thing on their forehead, and shake the rattle, and now they are evolved, so I've had a lot of people that express interest, but they can't follow through very much because they thought it was just going to be, okay, I'm going to teach you a bunch of spells, right? And tell you where to get the Eye of Newt. And that's not exactly what the path is like. So, maybe that's where I'm still evolving in how to offer those things to people. But that's the weirder part of my journey. Whereas on the more showbiz side, on the executive occultist side, I do get to swagger just a little bit because that helps people have fun with it. I'll tell you, those two things are merging more and more every day. And I love that because it means that some of the entertainment things I do are much, much more likely to have people have real experiences, whether they expect to or not. And I'm finding more and more that these people are coming up to me afterwards and going, okay, I got to tell you this. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So yeah, the Texas Mojo Man, I do specifically try to draw lines between that kind of thing and work in different modes. I think it's helpful to people, because quite honestly, some of the things that are in one bucket are confusing and alarming to people in the other bucket. The people that are very, very sincere about things, and yes, some of them do have a broomstick up their ass. And everything needs to be very serious and very, very specific. And bless their hearts. But those people they don't know what to do with the fact that I would just open things up and have music playing and and treat this more like a party. On the entertainment side, and of course the people looking for the entertainment are often surprised when they get little touches of real connection that they didn't think was going to happen, and they get curious now, and that's the whole point. The whole point of everything that I'm doing is to share all the cool stuff that I've connected with and figured out, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want everyone to know about this stuff and do this stuff? What would our world be like if everyone was in touch with their own magic? How different would that be if everyone knew that they could manifest for themselves without having to drink the blood of their enemies? That they could just...
Oh, we still do that now. Okay.
That we could just make more pie. That I think is the whole point, because when we create a universe like that, a society like that, the universe is already like that. It doesn't need our approval. When we decide to have a society that is based on love and manifestation for everybody, a lot of things change. A lot of the ideas of competition and ownership and that sort of thing change around. Doesn't mean you don't still own things, right? Doesn't still mean that you don't try to achieve your best and that's not recognized, right? Doesn't mean no applause. I'm not talking about a communist, I like your hat, give it to me kind of society, right? But there is a space between total nobody has to do anything and greed is good, we can pursue our own interests and manifestations, and that this is the universal rule. It's not just for the elite to do that. And that's very much the Texas Mojo Man way. And I know Texas has issues right now. I'm as embarrassed about it as anybody. But underneath a lot of that freaky screaming and swagger that's going on there is what I grew up with, and that I still love about the Texas underneath is that individualism, that friendliness, that is harder to see now, but it's still there, and just that general desire for people to be their own thing and to do their own thing, and to have respect for that. That's something that I grew up with. It's harder to see right now, but I promise you that is still a part of the soul of Texas, and we're just trying to find our way back to it. So please be patient and kind as those of us who are still connected with that try to raise it up.
So in addition to your cards, and you do magical coaching as well, when I hear, or when some people hear mojo, they think about hoodoo. You don't do any voodoo?
Well, so formally, no. Right? I would at my stage of understanding in hoodoo culture resist just totally taking that on, because I feel like there's a lot I don't know. And yet, you and I and others I've talked to who are deeper in that culture say that what feels like natural practices and approaches to me is a reflection of what is culturally found in hoodoo, and even aspects of voodoo. That somehow this is something that I connect with naturally, and I'm trying to dig deeper. I have some books that I'm reading on, and hopefully we'll be able to have more conversations with people. Mojo Man, mojo to me has always just been a more general word for magic and power. And another friend of mine agreed at that point, and so that's where Mojo Man came about, and it stuck to me. So apparently, I do connect with hoodoo styles, but I don't feel like I have enough foundation in it at this point to call myself openly a hoodoo practitioner. But I do feel the power of the crossroads. I do find that when I got to just do something, that I tend to do stuff that is very much at a root work level. That's just what comes naturally to me. I pedaled and I backpedaled. You're someone who I think is much more trained in that area. How do you see me through that lens?
Well, everybody actually has their own personal aspects when it comes to any kind of type of working. With you do have some things, but I don't actually see you as being a actual practitioner. That's the reason why I was asking, because a lot of people, mojo is a word that actually comes from hoodoo. So it's like a mojo bag. They also call it a gray bag, and there's so many other different words for it. And so that's the reason why I was asking the question, because when you said mojo, that's the first thing that comes up to my mind. Oh, he's into hoodoo. But I just wanted to see if that was, any part of your practice, because I wanted to make that clear.
I think it is a part, but it's not necessarily as deep as someone where it is totally at your center, because I, as a practitioner, do reach out to a lot of different perspectives and try to find the truths that they have to tell me. And there is truth in the very informal approaches. There is truth in the high magic kinds of things. And I admit I do kind of dig some of that ritual magic. I like the ambiance that gets created by formal ritual and proclaiming, we are going to make magic in a way that makes everyone go, oh yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we need to take a small break and hear from our amazing sponsors. And I'll be right back with the Texas Mojo Man. The witching hour is here, and new magical products arrive at Moonlight Potions and Charms. And what appears during the magical hour? Our mysterious triple goddess Hecate key necklace comes in 2 sizes, perfectly aligned with her will, so her devotees can find their way through the darkness. The handsome hand of God statues, believed to be protective talismans of luck, fertility, abundance, and good health, come in black or white. One of the best ways to bring your ancestors with you, no matter where you go, is our traveling ancestor altar on the go. They come in 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. Perfect for all of your needs. They include candles, an oil, a toy for the little ones who passed on, and so much more to honor their beloved dead. And our Papa Legba key necklace are perfect for the devotees of the King of the Crossroads. Comes in 2 sizes, each one specifically prayed over and dedicated to Papa Legba himself. And appearing for the first time, Baron Sam D and Mama Gray J, Altar on the Go limited edition. Yes, you can take your altar to the cemetery with you. How cool is that? The traveling altar is complete with top hats, coffin nails, a cross from Mama Bridget, and so much more, with room for you to add your own items. So show Baron Sam D and Mama Bridget the altar perfect for them. And don't forget, our barebone trio, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil skeletons have returned. There is so much more in our wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Anybody can tell you what is on a tarot or oracle card. What matters is seeing beyond what others may not be able to see and help the client to uncover what lies in the mist. What do readings from Moonlight Potions and Charms do? Wednesday, I did this ancestor reading, and it was an amazing reading. And it was a detailed reading. And I remember talking to this customer's ancestors, and it was so delightful, and he wanted some questions to be answered about the magic in his family because he didn't know, and his family was mostly like most of our families are, you know, how everything is like hush hush when it comes to the magic in his family. And he wanted to know who can he actually talk to about the history of the magic in his family. And I was able to give him specifically who he can go to talk to about that. What particular deity he can actually go to be able to help him with this. And it was just an amazing reading, and talking to his ancestors. They were such a delight, and they told me so much about this customer. It was just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful reading for him. And I was just so happy to be able to give him this wonderful reading. It's really amazing to be able to give people these readings, these products that's really going to help them, and be able to give back to the community, because this is what Moonlight Potions and Charms is about. We want to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. That is what we are all about. It's to help you to do that. Book now and allow our wonderful staff to take care of your spiritual reading needs. And there is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And we are going to be discussing on today's Witch's Cabinet, the Hand of Glory. And our Texas Mojo Man actually has one. Ooh. Ooh.
I do have a Hand of Glory in my collection here. And it is what I consider to be the only truly dark artifact in my collection. And I find that a lot of things, once you learn more about them and learn how they come about, that you're not as you understand them better. But this thing has some other aspects to it, and I can explain that a little bit more. But here it is.
Ooh.
Isn't that gruesome?
Now that's an actual hand.
Mm-hmm. So what you have to understand about the Hand of Glory is what it is. It is the left hand, the psychic hand of a criminal, removed while they are still hanging in the gibbet. That's that cage kind of thing that they used to do when punishment was much more obviously cruel. Now we do it in private. Or they may be hanging from the gallows, but you have to sever their hand while they're in their containment there. And you take that home and you treat it with a series of herbs and oils and salts as you recite incantations, very similar to the technique used to create a shrunken head, a sansa, but very different in intention and what you say. With a sansa, you're reciting prayers and bindings and protections, and with this, it's all incantations. And the hand becomes mummified. Now, while this is going on, you render the rest of the body into tallow. And that tallow is used to make candles. They're a matched set. you need to have the candles that match the hand in order for this to work. So I don't have the candles that go with this. I couldn't use it even if I wanted to. And then you take the candle and you set it in between the fingers, and you recite an incantation that I know but will not repeat. And you light this candle, and it gives off this wondrous light that only the holder can see. And now you are free to go about your business in this place without anyone able to see you. It's like medieval night vision goggles. Now, some things come to mind. First, even in a time when life was not precious, you couldn't just go and steal a criminal's body to take home as a souvenir, right? That was not allowable. You'd be hanged yourself if you got caught doing that. So you had to steal it, buy it. Second, all that was involved in doing this thing, it's not easy to do. It takes a long time to do. There's the smell of rendering the tallow and all of that kind of thing. There are many opportunities for people to go, hey, what the hell are you doing in there? And again, to get caught and to be punished. So this is not the tool of a cat burglar. This is not the tool of some petty thief. This is for high crimes and misdemeanors. So what wealthy prince, what wealthy merchant wanted this thing? And what did he want it for? Nothing good. I guarantee that. And it is that indisputable nature of it, which is what makes it a dark artifact for me. Because, you know, a lot of things, the most haunted, the most disturbing things that I have, once you understand their nature, you can appreciate it. It may still be a little creepy for you, but you can at least appreciate it. But the Hand of Glory only has one purpose, and it's a pretty nefarious one. So that's why I consider it to be my only dark, truly dark artifact. And it's one of the things that fascinates me. It fascinates people. And it's a little allied with the shrunken head that I display, because if you think about it, there are some similar techniques involved in creating them, but their nature and their purpose is completely different. It's all about intention, isn't it?
Yeah, and in the Hand of Glory, I've actually have had other lore that has said that, of course, there has to be a thief and they have to be hanging. Okay, that's always in every single portion of the lore. But it has to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be the left hand. It has to be the hand that actually did the crime, is what it's supposed to be. From one of the legends that I've learned. And which, you know, kind of makes sense. You know, if you're going to be hung as a thief, then whichever hand is the one that did the thieving is the one that needs to be severed. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. And then, of course, you'll have to stand it up and put the little candle, you know, between the fingers and stuff. That's one version. I also heard another version where you can lay it down and have the candle on top of the palm as
Right.
well. So when it comes to the Hand of Glory, it can do a variety of things within its dark intentions for not doing not being the best good person and sweet person in the world, okay?
Right.
Because the original intention was that thieves would break into somebody's home, they would light the hand of glory so that the occupants would not wake up. That's one
Right.
thing.
It does have a soporific effect as well, so that people who are asleep will stay asleep, people awake will tend to fall asleep. That's something that I left out of my explanation.
Yeah, and then it has also been used during the witch trials as well. It was said that there were some witches that would use the hand of glory to immobilize their victims. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
So,
Well,
I mean,
and the nature of it is such that it's something that you're really unlikely to try yourself.
right.
Right. There's a lot going on that makes it very, very difficult to recreate this thing, especially in today's society.
Right.
But I guess if anyone does and has some success with it, please let us know.
Well, the thing about it is you can't just put it out either. You have to use milk to put it out, supposedly. Is that what you read in your lore?
I hadn't seen anything specific about that. My own connection with candle magic is to always snuff the candle in some way.
Right.
So I hadn't seen anything in particular about that. But I think this is one of those things, especially when you deal with something that is so difficult to recreate, that the lore spreads around in different regions and different cultures. And it's hard to get to the center of it. And so I've got sort of I think what I feel are ideas that seem to be consistent, that I tell in the story. And of course, anyone who wants to go deeper and understand it better, I always enjoy when people do that. But it's a remarkable thing to have. And, there isn't, I'm not worried about it because, like I said, I don't have the candles. And so that changes its nature quite a bit. But it is a disturbing thing. And, my goal with all of these kinds of things is to keep them safe.
Well, does it smell?
No, it doesn't really. I mean, there's a kind of a must about it, but it's pretty old. And so you don't really, things reach a point where they just don't putrefy anymore.
Yeah, it's so amazing how different types of lore can influence, one type of artifact and everything. And when you look at that thing, the first thing I looked at, I thought about like Frankenstein or something.
Yeah, no, I can certainly appreciate that, because it's exactly that sort of thing. And body parts and bones and skulls and skin and stuff, those have always been aspects of spiritual practices. The Catholic Church is very big on reliquaries. And I was in the Catedral Nacional in Mexico City, the Mexican National Cathedral. And they had a lot of reliquaries there. And there was one that was a little collection of bones and a skull from a saint. And I found myself standing near, and I'd never been quite so near to anything like that before. And yeah, it's a weird sensation to be close to something like that. And of course, there are cultures that don't have the saintliness idea, but just a reverence for the fact that these remnants of a person represents their humanity. You know, and I think that that's a good thing in many ways. I know that our current culture, we like to outsource all that. You know, grandma dies, someone comes and handles that while you all meet at the Denny's. You know, we're much more detached from that aspect of death in our current culture. And we think of the remains of a person as being icky, and spooky and all that kind of thing. But they are remarkable. And so the things I do have in my collection that have that connection with humanity, I treat with reverence. Even this one, I treat with a certain amount of reverence because it does have a connection to life in a way that matters. So I wonder if that's something we'll ever really get back to.
I don't know if we'll ever really get back to it, but so I bet you've had a lot of comments on that when you've shown it off.
It's one of the ones that gets a lot of attention, especially when I explain that it's the only dark artifact that I have. You know, people want to understand that. Probably the only one that gets more attention is the doll, which I believe we've had on the show before. And she really gets people's attention. She really draws them in. But I think it's her nature that does that, because her nature wants to be seen, wants to be played with, wants to be appreciated in some way. And she can't be played with now because she's too fragile. So the fact that people notice her and ask about her and are curious about her, I think helps fulfill that aspect of her nature.
So when people come across like a dark object, would you advise them that if they had to touch it, to wear gloves?
Well, I think in many cases when you're dealing with artifacts, especially artifacts that are old, you should be wearing gloves and things like that to handle them, to protect the artifact. The case that I have for the Hand of Glory allows me to carry it around and display it without handling it. And if I ever need to handle it, I do wear gloves. So I just think that's just a general respect for artifacts is in many cases when you're handling, you should be wearing gloves so that you don't get all your crap on them and cause them to disintegrate. But as far as when you're hunting around for objects, it's not like in the horror movies where if I touch the object that its magic is going to jump off on me and anyone I bite. Right? That's very much about shielding and your own personal protections that you invoke. And if you don't have command over that, some cotton white gloves are not going to prevent attachments.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So if you're looking for objects, say in a thrift store or something like that, which I do, walking around with your white gloves might be a little weird for people. But having said that, I don't have a problem with having things in my collection that have a more aggressive vibration to them. I have protocols that I put in place to help make them safe, right? But also I have an intention. My intention is to protect them. My intention is to preserve them, to put them in a safe place so that no one is going to use them to harm others, that no one is going to try to destroy them or anything like that. And so my intention with them tends to get them to calm the hell down. And I haven't come across anything that appears to have like a demonic possession or anything like that. And so I don't have anything to tell you about how I deal with that. But I have come across several things that seem to have an intention and a vibration with them. And to me, that I think is the biggest thing, is even though I consider this thing to be dark, my goal is for people to understand it, not to be afraid of it. And that changes the whole way that we have that conversation. And hopefully the way people think about it. Very different from going, and this is the knife that Jack the Ripper used on his victims. Ah! Right? That's not the purpose. And, another thing when you talk about artifacts like this is we get into the principles of the Kabbalion and things like that, where everything has its opposite. And every object that has a good aspect tends to be tied to another object that is sort of its opposite. And if you destroy the one that you consider to be malevolent, it's going to diminish or undo the one that it's connected with. And so you got to be real cautious about that kind of thing. Just because if it makes you too uncomfortable, you don't need to own it.
Right.
You need to get that someplace better. But the whole idea of burning and destroying and things like that, I would be very cautious with that, because you're messing with the balances there. And it will have unintended consequences. But on the other hand, making sure that something is in a position to be preserved and protected and out of harm's way and out of people's way, something like that can stay pretty safe. And of course, something that I haven't really thought about in the past that I'm having to start to think about is there will come a day when I am no longer of this earth. And I need to make sure that these things don't just end up in an estate sale or something like that, that somehow they are processed through someone that knows how to treat them with respect and maintain their preservation. Not just put them on eBay, even though that's where I've gotten some of this stuff. I found it on eBay, but my goal in that case is always to go, all right, here we go. Let's get you taken care of. Not sent off to a 12-year-old.
All right. So that is all for our show today. So Saul, where can our people reach you?
Well, I have a website, saulravencraft.com. I am becoming increasingly dissatisfied with it as to its shape and information, and so at some point I've got to tackle that. But there is a contact form on there, and there is some useful information. But probably the best way to track me down is through Facebook. That's the place where I'm most active. There's something that goes up from me almost every day, and events and all that kind of stuff are announced. And it's also an easy way to interact with me because you can private message me. I do have 2 pages. I talk to either one equally. Just the information on them is differently. So if you go to Saul Ravencraft, Executive Occultist, that'll be more of my public-facing stuff, including events and things like that, and weird news and all that stuff. And if you go to the Texas Mojo Man page, you'll find other kinds of information, including replays of Witch Hat Chats, which I don't put that up front with the general public. Not that they can't find it, right? But some people don't need it in their face. Reach out and we can talk about whatever you're curious about.
All right. Well, thank you, Saul, for being on the show. And, that's going to be it for our show today. So join us next week when Saul and I are going to be chatting with the werewolf himself, Denny Sargent. Ladies, these are our rights and no one gives them away or takes them away from us because we are not property. So make sure you let the men know and understand this. Vote them out. We don't want these slave owners here anymore. We want them out of office. So vote them out. And make sure you still wear a mask and get your vaccinations and boosters, especially with your flu, because it's not just the virus now that we have to deal with. We're in flu season, so we need to get our flu vaccinations as well. And support the people that are helping you and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, and yourself safe. And have an absolute magical, spooky week.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki curving with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Life and soul with a beautiful mind. I give you blessings under moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk.